Hello, welcome back to my channel and to another reaction video. This time we're checking out another Warhammer 40k lore video. This is the Solblades.
For centuries, mankind has willfully and persistently blinded themselves to the true scale of the Tyranids. With every victory has come complacency.
But now
Lessons are forgotten, tactics are discarded, and garrisons left perilously under strength. The Imperium of Man has fought 3 major conflicts against the Hive Fleet, and 3 times it has made the same mistakes, fallen into the same traps, and found itself closer to the brink of destruction than any would care to admit. But no longer. In the era Indomitus, the enormous gears of the Imperium's war machine, dormant and rusted, are slowly beginning to turn. But such strength can only be marshaled through immense effort and at terrible cost. It will require flesh, bone, and steel. It will demand even more from those with nothing left to give, but above all, it will take time. And time is the one resource that the Imperium of Man does not have. It must be taken. This is the grim work of the Solblades. Elite strike forces drawn from every institution within the Imperium, the Solblades represent a bold new vision for combating the Tyranid race. Rather than merely awaiting the arrival of a Hive fleet at some predetermined and fortified position, such as had occurred on Macragge or Baal, the Solblades would advance rapidly to delay and harass the swarm in any way they could. Diversionary strikes, hit-and-run attacks, and every other type of irregular warfare would be utilized by the Solblades, aiming not to destroy an entire Hive fleet or tendril, but rather slow and confuse its progress.
The Leviathan is constantly learning, creating new bioforms,
are minuscule in size, their void warfare assets typically consisting of no more than 3 starships. Their terrestrial forces are similarly limited, though exact numbers will vary wildly depending on the nature of the units assigned to them. Though seemingly ill-prepared to face a foe so numerically superior, to which entire Space Marine chapters and Imperial Guard army groups have been lost, the small size of a Solblade is a deliberate choice, and key to their success. The tactics utilized by the Solblades are not new, and have been tested against the Tyranids many times before, with mixed results. But it is hoped that by limiting the size of these forces, they can remain nimble enough to evade the ponderous advance of a Hive fleet, and escape a situation in which a larger, more unwieldy task force might be entangled and destroyed. Smaller forces likewise have a greatly reduced logistical footprint, enabling a rapid redeployment, without the need for a prolonged resupply or extensive support infrastructure. But the greatest advantage of the Solblades is their autonomy. Each force possesses everything it needs to sustain a prolonged operation, far from the Imperium's oversight or support. The shadowing warp caused by the Tyranid hive mind has long plagued any and all resistance rallied against it, disrupting faster-than-light travel, communications, and psychic abilities. The Solblades are not designed to overcome this interference, but instead to remain effective within it. Solblades present substantial differences in their composition, depending on which branch of the Imperial military apparatus they have been drawn from. Astartes Solblades are typically made up of a single strike cruiser or frigate squadron, and are led by a carefully selected captain, lieutenant, librarian, chaplain, or in some unusual circumstances, a dreadnought. Often, these have been formed from those within the larger chapter, with experience in hunting Xenos, or even Tyranids specifically, when possible. Consequently, many Astartes Solblades are operated by the Death Watch, their skills uniquely aligned to the challenges posed by the Tyranid threat. Solblades contributed by the knightly houses are some of the smallest, sometimes consisting of only a single lance. But the immense firepower that the Imperial Knights wield is enough to offset their limited numbers. The Adeptus Sororitas, by contrast, have fielded far larger Solblades, though not by design. The Orders militant have been as deliberate and selective as any other Imperial force, but their elite battle sisters have been trailed by a tide of fanatics and zealots eager to join in the struggle and who refuse to be dissuaded. Mechanicum Solblades are the most mysterious, taking advantage of the authority and isolation afforded to these formations to pursue their own agendas.
That's a little
Even
creepy
the vaunted
picture, not
custodies
gonna lie.
have contributed Solblades, though their deployment so far from Terra has necessitated a flexible interpretation of the bonds and codes that dictate their deployment. It is said that Trajan Valoris, Chief Custodian and the 17th Captain General, is personally leading an Imperial Soulblade himself. Even
I don't know
Astra
if we've
whose mobilizations are
met her
famously
in
slow,
previous videos,
and what the
probably,
Soulblades
maybe.
were intended to buy time for, have nevertheless contributed forces from their own
Kind of funny. Front you have
stormtroopers from the
pretty
Tempest
much Nazi troops, then you have
Kazakins
Mongols
trained in the
behind.
style of Lost Cadia, and a multitude of esoteric alien hunters from the
I love
Catacomb
this
Jungle
picture.
Fighters to the Death Corps of Krieg. All have been mustered and integrated into the diverse ranks of Soulblades. The disparate nature of these unconventional forces amplifies their overall effectiveness and adaptability, as each brings their own unique strengths and specialized training. As a consequence, the Tyranid hive mind is faced with a multitude of differing strategies and tactics, ensuring that what might be effective against one might prove ineffective against another. The Soulblades are a direct result of Hive Fleet Leviathan, thought to be destroyed over Baal, only to re-emerge in the western expanses of Segmentum Pacificus. As the Imperium undertakes the greatest mobilization in its history, regiments must be redeployed from distant war zones. Others must be mustered from scratch. Support convoys and supply bases must be established, and corridors through the warp discovered and reinforced against the perpetual threat of piracy and raiders. Until this can be done, the Tyranids must be delayed by every means. Departing from ceremonies of pomp and grandeur, the first Soulblades to participate in the Fourth Tyrannic War have found themselves in a nightmarish maelstrom of carnage and slaughter. Dozens of Imperial worlds are in the process of being consumed, and special attention must be given to which ones would benefit the most from the support of a Soulblade, and which must be abandoned to serve the greater strategic objective.
That's a harsh decision,
these
but
forces have accomplished things that
I
would
mean,
have
it's
been
the
unthinkable
40k
in any
universe,
previous
what do you
campaign
expect?
against the Tyranids.
Very dark indeed.
Soulblades have bolstered the defenses of isolated Imperial bastions, turning what should have been easy conquests of the Tyranids into protracted centers of resistance. In some of these cases, Soulblades have not fought directly, but instead imparted their knowledge and doctrine to the local defenders, and elevated the combat effectiveness of Imperial forces across an entire front. They have recovered critical information and key relics at risk of being lost forever, and delivered vital reconnaissance to the greater Imperium, ensuring that defenses are formed to counter the specific movements of the Hive Fleet. In several instances, Soulblades have devastated entire tendrils of the Swarm through the most desperate of tactics. And yet, it may have all been in vain. The Soulblades were deployed to counter the two largest tendrils of Hive Fleet Leviathan, only for a third, far larger swarm to remain completely undetected. Even now, it lays siege to the world of Sanctum, linchpin of the critical Bastio subsector, and the headquarters for the entire Imperial defense in Segmentum Pacificus. The Soulblades have found remarkable success, but their intervention may have come too late. For while mankind blinded themselves to the true scale of the Tyranids, the hive mind has carefully observed every attempt made against it. It has watched, and it has learned.
Makes sense. Well, there we have it, folks, the Soulblades. And so, yeah, the Soulblades is the Imperium's new type of garrison comprised of different troops from all over the Imperium in a desperate attempt to halt the Hive Fleet Leviathan that has indeed gotten a little bit too closer. And I like how it ends pretty much saying it might have all come a bit too late. One large tendril is now threatening the HQ of the whatever the location was. I'm bad remembering names, but yeah, it's still very impressive to see that the Solblades has had pretty good success against Leviathan. So I actually wonder had they acknowledged the Tyranids a bit sooner, the Imperium. I mean, how well they would have. How would have the war gone if they had acknowledged Leviathan sooner? Well, English is hard. But then again, it also mentions how the Leviathan and the hive mind is constantly learning, so how long will the Solblades be effective? I think the consensus is in the 40k universe is that when will the Necrons finally concentrate their full force against the Tyranids? They're pretty much I think they might pose the biggest threat to Tyranids. And yeah, I have checked out the Hive Fleet Leviathan. I've also seen the Tyranids and a lot of the other Imperium lore videos there on my channel. But yeah, the Tyranids truly are frightening villains. I loved how in one of the lore videos it explains, I think it was Hive Fleet Leviathan, how Imperium had to, when they defeated the one of the tendrils in Baal, Imperium had to join forces with the forces of Chaos. They even mentioned how, even though it's possible that Imperium would have won without their aid, their losses would have been far greater had it been for the whatever the champion of Chaos who came to there. Really fascinating. But yeah, what do you guys think? Write your thoughts down below. Hope you enjoyed my reaction. Drop a comment, like, subscribe if you want, and I will see you in another video.